Okay.
Okay.
I hear you.
Yep, I hear you.
Okay.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. All right.
I hear voices. Yay, Mr. Bernie hears us.
Sound is coming through. Sorry for trouble. Okay. And now I'm going to close this other broadcast. So, no, you know what? I think I'll leave it up just in case somebody happens along, and then that way they know to move over to the new.
Yeah, it's the snow's fault. You're right, Mr. Bernie.
All right. You know what? We had a lot of difficulty logging in, and it could be because, you know, I had to change my mic off and weird things like that. So, you know, maybe it just had a brain burp. Okay, so I guess I'm going to start again.
2.0.
Version 2.0. I'm very sorry about the delay. But for those of you who were not able to stay for the new broadcast, we are going to premiere this on my YouTube channel probably tomorrow morning. So you will have an opportunity to interact with it there. So, all right. So I'm going to start this time the way I should have started last time, which is to say that this is for our Kickstarter for Gunsmoke and Dragonfire. We are hoping to win your pledges by impressing you with the amazing writers that we have on board. And so there should be a button somewhere on your chat screen that will enable you to pledge if you are so moved to do so. A lot of the writers have contributed their own work, their own services. There's a writer services package. There's a couple of them that are only available for a few hours now, and then they will not be available anymore. Check it out. There's a lot of great work. There's something for everybody, I'm sure. There's digital rewards. There's art awards. There are rewards. There's lots of stuff. So. All right, so I'll reread the bio that I wrote. One of the most fascinating aspects of this project for me was seeing how different writers with backgrounds in different genres chose to approach the theme. Ryan R. Daniel Lester is a literary writer, probably better known for his mysteries than his science fiction, although he tells me that he actually does write more of it. It's just that it isn't out there. Right? He has little background in fantasy or Western that I could find anyway, but this story has distinct elements of all of the above. His work has appeared in a lot of markets that are a big deal in the Canadian literary community and likely almost unknown in the United States, such as Adbusters, Geist, 365 Tomorrows, Pulp Literature, Broken Pencil, and the Lascaux Prize Anthology. He has won the MASH Stories Flash Fiction Contest and twice made it to the semifinals of the Broken Pencil Indie Writers Deathmatch. And he was telling me about that. I'm going to ask him to do it again. It probably won't be quite as cool a story, but it's really interesting. So I thought people might want to hear about it. Recently, the Crime Writers of Canada nominated his 2018 novella, Dead Clown Blues, for an Arthur Ellis Award. The second book in the series, 40 Nickels, will be released in 2019.
In August.
In August. Cool. Mm-hmm. That's good to know. Okay, I'm going to check it out. Okay, once an inhabitant of Gastown, Vancouver, and now dwelling with his spouse and daughter in Toronto, Ontario, you can find Ryan at his blog, rdaniellester.wordpress.com, Facebook, and Goodreads. And I am going to post the link to his website in the chat so that you guys can check it out because it's very cool, actually. So thank you for joining me today, and thank you for your patience with all the incredible bullshit technical difficulties.
It's a great
always happens with the
thing to have, but when it goes wrong, it can go really wrong, right?
It can. Yeah. This modern technology is really great in that it gives us the opportunity to speak to people. Like, you're across the continent from me. I'm in interior BC, right? So we can do this, right? As long as it all works. And it doesn't always work, right? So
now we're working. Good.
Now we're working. Okay. Boo technology shoot on film. Uh-oh. I hope the visual's coming through now.
I think Mr. Bernie's just having some fun with us.
Yeah, it could be. Could be.
Yeah, he's a film
That's
guy.
cool. That's cool. All right. So, yes, the Broken Pencil Deathmatch. You were telling me some war stories.
I was. Yeah. So I've yeah, I was twice. I think I've entered, I didn't mention this the first time. I think I entered 4 times over the years, and I made it twice. And then both of those times made it to the semifinals, which is not as easy as it sounds. It's especially a lot of work from your friends and family and yourself to get out there, because you're really looking for, it's a contest that's all about getting fan votes. So it's getting people to read your story. And then literally just say, I like this one over this one. And then I think a lot of it becomes about friends and family just like constantly voting for you, because you can vote every hour. It's a pretty crazy contest. Usually at least once every Deathmatch, the server crashes because there's so many people voting. There's always, and that came up for me this last time against my opponent, the opponent I was at, there was, it was called into question if he was using bots to get votes, or if someone, there was a lot of suspicious votes. I don't believe it was him at all. I think it was someone voting for him that probably did it without anything to do with him. I just think it just raised his vote count by like 1,000 overnight in only 5 hours. So unless you have 200 people voting, not likely. So it was really neck and neck there, and there was some weird stuff, but it's all in good fun, and it's really just all in a celebration of literature and Canadian literature, although people can send in stories from wherever. And there was, I think the winner was from the States this year. So yeah, it's just trying to get more eyeballs on more stories, and it works out for Broken Pencil because they get clicks on their website, and they get people clicking around. And so, yeah. It's interesting. It's maybe not for everybody, because you have to spend a lot of time on the comment boards. You have to respond to comments. You can get some nasty ones. You can get some good ones. You can get some trolls. You can get some good feedback, some bad feedback. It's interesting. I don't think I'll do it again. I think that maybe is it for me. I think 2 trips to the semifinals is enough. Both of those times I got the story published in print and online. So that's nice. I think that's all I'm ready. Yeah, I don't think I'll enter it again. It's a lot to ask of yourself and your friends and family who start to go, I have to vote again?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, get on it. It's 2 a.m. Come on, what are you doing? Yeah.
It does. It sounds like an adrenaline rush for sure.
It is.
I did some battles of the bands online in the 90s, so, I can kind of relate. It was a lot like that. So, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I'd have the courage to do that with my writing, though, right? Because, writing's so personal. I mean, music's personal, too, but not quite in the same way. And if you got someone going, you're shit, your stuff is trash,
Yeah.
I don't know how I'd react to that. I'd be like, thanks? Why did you bother saying anything? Just don't read the damn story.
Don't read it then?
Yeah, right?
But vote for me anyways? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. This last time I was able to kind of get out a sci-fi story.
Cool.
So that's one of the reasons really why I entered, because I'm like, oh, this is different for me. And I don't have really a lot of sci-fi credit yet. So I'm like, oh, this is good. And I ended up getting a lot of comments on my story from people who are like, I like sci-fi, and this reminds me of Black Mirror, or this aspect reminds me of Blade Runner. And I'm like, oh, great. So I'm reaching an audience. I know I'm doing something that is working for them. So that was a big part of it for me. Because although I've written a lot of crime in the last years, I have spec fic is probably especially if I can blend crime and spec fiction and sci-fi, then I'm a happy man. So that's my thing. Yeah. I
think that really works when that is blended, right? As I was saying earlier, crime fiction, thrillers, they're sort of a not so guilty pleasure for me. I read everything. I really like them. Right. And I really love it when the genres are blended, which is part of the point of, this anthology in the first place, is to break boxes and to blend things that you might not initially imagine would go well together. But I don't know. I think they do. And you were saying that your story for the anthology was a contest winner as well.
Yeah, it was originally born out of the NYC Midnight Short Story Contest, and they run a series of contests throughout the year. They have a screenwriting one. I think they have a flash fiction. And years ago, I saw the deadline coming up for entering. I'm like, okay. And it was an interesting one. It's not that you don't send in a story that you already have. You basically enter, and you agree that on this weekend you're going to be available to write, and then at midnight or 9 p.m. Eastern, whatever, everyone who's entered gets a prompt, and you get a character, a situation, and a genre. There's 3 different things you get, and then you write it, and so you have a week to write it. So really, it must be interesting for the editors and for the judges, because they're getting, say, 50 short stories about the same thing, right, but not at all about the same thing, because each writer is going to have their different take on it.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
So I can't even say that this is a story I would have written without this, because it didn't come organically in that sense. I was given a prompt of fantasy. I was given a prompt of involved tap dancing, and I can't remember the last one. Don't think the Western aspect was in there. Anyways, it was 3 prompts. So I love those exercises, because you're often forced out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can only improve when you are.
Well, exactly. And then you can do what they ask, do their prompt, but then you find your way to make it work. And for me, that was to find that rhythm, the noir, the crime rhythm of the repo who's going to collect this spell. So, yeah.
I really liked that aspect. I thought you did a great job of blending that. I could definitely see the noir influence, and it was one of the things that really made it stand out for me that I really enjoyed. So I can't wait for other people to read it. You were saying that you had entered 3 different stories in this contest, and they have now all been published.
Yeah. So I was a finalist that year. So that meant I got through 2 rounds, and then the last round I entered, and I didn't advance any farther, but I was a finalist, so that's nice. Hey, that's great. None of them were published, so no one reads those ones except the judges. But when you come out of that contest, you can say, okay, I was a finalist. It's a bit of, external reward, external gratification in a sense. But then you also have 3 stories. So then I had 3 short stories that I knew were okay, because at least they worked for that audience enough to get me through, but they needed work. So over the next couple of years, I didn't focus so much. I think first I tweaked all of them, sent a few out. This one got rejected a few times, just from like one of the bigger markets that I took a shot at. Probably wasn't really right for them, but I'm like, I'll take a shot.
Can't hurt. Never know.
No, exactly. And the others, I just kind of slowly worked on them through the years. And the first one in that contest was like a thriller, and it's called Nowhere to Go But Dead. And that got published in this issue of Switchblade, which came out in October. And then shortly thereafter, I think December or so, another story from that contest was published online in a kind of a crime noir website, and now this one. So
great.
Yeah, it's nice to know that was worth it, and to know that 6 years later I can say that work is out there. Yeah,
excellent. And speaking of work that's out there, you were nominated for the Arthur Ellis Award, and you are a shortlister. So maybe tell people a bit about what the Arthur Ellis Award is and about your novella. Yeah,
the Arthur Ellis Awards is the awards given out by the Crime Writers of Canada every year. For those in the States, I think the Mystery Writers of America, I think it's the Edgar, if I'm not mistaken, that they give out. As Canadians, we're eligible for the Arthur Ellis, and I was nominated for my novella Dead Clown Blues, which was nominated as one of the best novellas. So they picked top 5, and I was able to go to the gala dinner, which was nice because it happened in Toronto, and I just recently moved to Toronto in late 2017. So I actually had a chance to go. So that was nice. Just a chance to network, and I didn't win, but I got a little certificate that says I was a finalist, and it's been good. That month there was a jump in sales just from being nominated, from getting out to a wider audience.
I imagine it's a lot like the Nebulas or the Hugos in that respect. Just being nominated is an honor, and
absolutely.
Already is, increases your exposure because people will pay attention to that reward or that award, and they'll go, "Oh, well, why was this nominated? What's this about?" Right?
It's just some external validation. from.
Sure, never hurts.
You know, if it's Crime Writers of Canada or Science Fiction Writers of America, whatever, that's your audience. So to know that you made a connection with your audience and with the other writers and other judges in, you know, in that specific field, that can only help.
Mr. Bernie says, did you have a nice suit at the gala?
I did. I needed a new suit, so I actually got a new one. Not for that, but it was it just worked out well. It was in May. It was crazy hot all of a sudden, I remember. But yeah, it was fun. Just a chance to go. And Andrea, unfortunately, could not, my partner, my spouse, she could not get we didn't have a babysitter, so I was solo. But it was still fun to go. And just to see your name up on the screen and have a chance. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, good for you. That's awesome. Congrats. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah, that was nice. And now the second one, the sequel, comes out in August.
Cool.
I recently finished my draft and it's kind of waiting for some feedback now from the publisher, and we'll go from there. I'm excited about it.
Cover.
Thank you.
You were saying that earlier. The cover is really great. You were saying that it's cool because it captures the fact that it's not entirely serious.
Yeah, my character is by no means an accomplished detective. In fact, he's not really a detective at all.
Cool.
He has no license. Just kind of some baggage from the past and a little bit of too much self-confidence. And he has something. There's something there that allows him to kind of muddle his way through a case. But he's by no means professional. So I do it for laughs because, I don't know, I can't help but write funny a lot of the time. Actually, there
is a comic undertone to your story for Gunsmoke and Dragonfire as well.
Yeah, I almost have to work. Personally, I have to work harder not to insert funny and to be serious. If that's the tone I want for a story, than I do to be funny. I don't know. It's just me. That's just my natural. I'm going to try and find the joke or find the dark funny.
I admire that. I find it difficult to write funny myself, so that's really cool. Mr. Verney says he's no Special Agent Dale Cooper then.
No, he's not. His name is Carnegie Fitch, and he's got a cheap suit and a hole in his fedora, and that's how he rolls. Yeah.
That's great. Right on.
And he likes French butter.
French butter.
That's for David Burney. There's a little bit in there that only a very few people will get, and he's one of them. Yeah.
He says. So you were in film school when you were in Vancouver, you were saying, and one of the reasons you got involved in a writing course there, right? Do you find that having been in film school informs your writing? Do you write differently because of looking at it through the eyes of film?
I might have a better answer to that if I had done the writing program when I was a bit more. I was so young to it I was so new to it back then. I was just like a deer just walking around on really spindly legs. Like it was just getting me back into being creative as far as writing goes. And that's kind of what led to me writing prose and starting to write fiction and starting to look at, short story markets. Where can I send a short story? Oh, I have a short story. Where should I send it? That kind of got me back into that. I think my style is to be like, I think there's some authors, if you took their prose and you're like, let's make a screenplay of this movie, there's some where it would be very difficult. In a sense, like I write simple. I don't, and this is nothing against those that don't. For me, I don't write huge paragraphs and really excessive description. I tend to think maybe I am thinking more of it like a screenplay in a sense, although I love how things look on a page, and I love short stories and prose. But I am always visualizing it. I'm not really thinking of it as a movie because I think I want to think of it as a finished product, as a book or a story. But yeah, I could think that it definitely, it informs you on how you write and how you think. But I think maybe it's just, that's my style.
Sure.
Less is more. I'm a big believer in less is more.
Right now, that's a thing, right? Like people, I think in general, the market it tends to be more favorable to that for a large number of reasons, right? The fact that it has to be internet available, right, is one thing, right? The fact that people do have, shorter periods of time. The fact that nobody, we're a visual medium more in some ways, I think, than we don't have patience for Lovecraft anymore, and I mean, I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. I'm just
it's
saying
just the way
thing, right?
the way it is. I mean, I'd love to be the kind of writer who could just think, especially with some of the stuff you see in the fantasy genres that just create massive worlds and they're describing everything to you. And if I read that and it's a book that I love it, but that's not how I work.
Absolutely. Everybody's got their own style, and that's cool.
Yeah.
So I asked you earlier, what is it that inspired you to become a writer?
Yes. So that, as I mentioned before, I can probably I may have found my way to it in other ways. In fact, you probably look back and say, you would have had, because it's such a drive to kind of be creative and tell stories. But Stephen King, hands down. 13 or 14, I think I'd said, was roughly when I read. I mean, when you look back at it, maybe Roald Dahl. I read a lot of Roald Dahl as a kid, and he's pretty dark and funny, and so maybe that informed me too. But at that point, you're not really thinking of being a writer. But those years, that first, grade 8, grade 9, somewhere in there, when I read Skeleton Crew and Night Shift.
Fantastic books, amazing stories.
I think back to back, and my head went, just exploded that you can write stories like this. And it just opened my head up like a jar, I think, as far as, this is possible. And then I guess it just sat for a while. I remember periods of creativity throughout, in high school and stuff. I'd try and write a short. I took a creative writing course, but then I never really thought about it as something I should be doing. I got caught in the whole, what are you going to be? I'll go to university for psychology. Okay. Why? I don't, looking back, I don't know why. I'm sure I gleaned some stuff from it. I think everything is experience is good. Had I just gone right into writing, who knows?
I received horrible advice as a kid, right? That horrible advice being, oh yeah, writing's good, but you can't rely on it. So you should concentrate on a real day job. And the problem is if you do all this training and you're spending all this time in school and then you're doing this really professional career, where do you have time to write? I mean, some people can do it, right? But I am not one of them. So
no, I hear you. Yeah. It takes time and mental, and it just takes a certain mindset. I've had a little more freedom the last year now to be, since we moved to be creative. But before then it was all just, working it in weekends, day job after the day job, at night, weekends, which is why I loved contests throughout the years. Because it's just that external deadline that's going to push you when you get home and you're like, no, I'm watching Netflix tonight. But then you've got an external deadline and you're like, I want to make that.
I do National Novel Writing Month every year, and I do it for that reason, right? Because, the external deadline I find is a good poke.
Yeah, and this one, actually, the first draft of this was from the 3-day novel writing contest. I don't know if it still happens. I haven't heard of
this. Do tell.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if it still happens. It used to be way back. It was, I don't know if you've heard of Anvil Press. They're out of Vancouver.
Okay, yeah.
They're well known in the indie world, small press world. They publish some great books. For a while, it was them. So if you won this contest, you were actually published by Anvil, but I think they then passed it on.
Okay.
So I did my first 3-day novel writing contest in 2000. And that's probably, it was Labor Day weekend 2000. And if I had to pinpoint a more recent thing that made me a writer, I think it's that weekend, because I sat down, having just finished film school and done a few things, and then for 3 days, I just wrote for 50 hours. I probably have not had a creative burst like it since, in a sense. Right. I mean, I'm focused now. I can, you can do more with less, I think, now, as you get better and more professional at something. After just practicing, you get better. But I just remember this crazy weekend of I'm going to tell this story. Holy cow, I'm going to do it. And then 3 days later, I had something, and
Fantastic.
I did it 4 times, I think, or 5 times. And this was the last one. It was in 2011. I wrote the first draft of this over Labor Day weekend, or 2012 maybe. It wasn't called this, it was called something else. But it eventually turned into this that I reworked over. It's again, I looked at it the same way as I looked at that New York City, the NYC Midnight Short Story Contest. Even, I doubt I'll win, because I don't think I write that well in 3 days. Like, I can't produce that much, and some people can just.
I know some people. I'm like, wow.
So I kind of knew I wouldn't win, but it was I'll come out of this 3 days and I'll have something. I'll have 20,000 words I can then make into something else and make it bigger. Yeah. So
Mr. Bernie says, true that you don't put too much description in there, Mr. Lester. You let us readers visualize what's going on. It's a good thing. And he also said, the Dead Zone meets James and the Giant Peach, which I just might have to write now. That's cool.
That must happen. Yeah.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, James falls off the peach and wakes up and after his coma and suddenly he's in the future.
Both great books. Yeah. Both, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very cool. Okay. Now, I've been across Canada a couple times on little trips, just stop in for a day, check things out, move on, right? I've done it on Greyhound bus and I did it in an RV and in my car, right? So for me, I actually find Canada can be very regional, right? I mean, we have a broad sense of Canadian culture, but Canadian culture looks very different in very different places. Did you find it was a bit of culture shock when you moved from Vancouver to Toronto?
Yeah, I guess in a way. It's bigger, right? I mean, it's a lot bigger city.
It's a lot bigger. Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden we were living in a neighborhood, whereas in Vancouver, we lived in Gastown, and I had lived there for, about 16, 17 years. So it was really it felt like a home. Before that, I was in New Westminster with my parents, but I'd been downtown for a long time. And then when we moved here, now that we have our daughter, Tilda, we knew we needed more space. We did not want to be downtown in an apartment. Although we didn't think house. We actually did not think house at all. We were thinking apartment, but it turned out to be what was best. And so we're actually in a neighborhood now, which is really interesting, although we have a lot of stuff nearby, on a major street nearby, which is great. So that is something. So I actually find myself not getting out as much, in the sense of we can stay in the neighborhood. And it's just trying to connect to that. The literary scene here is huge. It's even bigger. So
do you find that difficult?
No, I've never been someone that needs a huge community to be creative. I've never been a huge writing group guy. Although I've done a few things here and there, some courses where there was some, writing and then feedback and writing and feedback, but I've never really needed it. Maybe I could have used it. I'm definitely not saying it wouldn't have been advantageous, but I've been a kind of a solo creator, and I've been okay with that. So that hasn't bothered me too much. But I just know there's just a big community to crack here. I'd like to look into it. I'm going to join the Crime Writers of Canada to be a member. That will probably help a bit. I want to look into what any sci-fi stuff going on. I think Toronto has a pretty big community of sci-fi.
I can help you with that. Actually, I can point you in some directions. I'll send you some.
Yeah, that'd be good.
On the show.
Yeah. It never hurts to get out there. Last summer, Pulp Literature, where I've had a short story published in, one of the starters of that, one of the editors, they were out here, and so they decided to do a little reading for any authors that were in the area. So I got a chance to go out and read, and it kind of reminded me how much I enjoy reading my stuff. And I used to do a lot of spoken word.
Good for you. That's cool.
Long time ago, 2002, 2005, between those years. So I remembered that I do enjoy that aspect of kind of performing, quote unquote. So it's always good to try and find more opportunities to read, but sometimes I tend to just sit in front of the computer and write.
Well, but that's how the words get on the page, right?
Yeah.
There was something in 2008, a juncture of minds, says Mr. Bernie.
Yes, 2008. My good friend Mr. Bernie and I he's an artist, so we did a joint launch that I launched these 2 books. I did some self-publishing around that time.
Great.
So I had a poetry collection and a short story collection that I put out, and then Mr. Bernie had some art to show, so we got a gallery. We hung his stuff in the gallery for a night, and then I launched the books, and yeah. I can't believe that was like 10, 11 years ago already.
Wow. Yeah.
Time flies.
Does fly that way.
Yes.
How old is your daughter?
She's 3. She just turned 3 on Christmas.
Aww.
She's a Christmas baby. So she just turned 3. Yeah. That's crazy to me. It's already been 3 years, but.
Do you like being a dad? Is it fun?
It is. It has its moments where you're like, oh, can you just get dressed?
Yeah.
Like 2 months ago, you didn't care what I put you in. And now, no. Like, oh, we gotta get to daycare. Come on. So it definitely has its moments, but yeah, it's fun. It just gives you a whole other perspective.
You know, what I liked about doing the parenthood thing was seeing things through my child's eyes, right? Because when everything is so fresh, you know, they look at something and they're like, oh, isn't the sky pretty? Look, there's a dragon, you know, and I haven't looked at, you know,
you don't
in a long time. I'm going to work. I'm doing
it.
Yeah, exactly. So you can, you know, you can check it out. You can get a new lease on the world.
Yep. Yeah,
I like my visits with Ms. T, says.
He visited last year, spent a few days with us here in Toronto, and big fan. And my daughter's a big fan. Mr. Dave Bernie, she calls him.
Great.
And we were recently back there for a visit over Christmas with my parents. So it's got a great chance to see some friends that we miss a lot. But yeah.
That's excellent. Right on. Yeah. So what have you got? What else have you got coming out in the near future? Things, irons in the fire.
Yeah. So there's the Gunsmoke and Dragonfire. I've got the sequel to Dead Clown Blues, 40 Nickels, which comes out in August. Not sure I don't think I have a specific date for that yet. I have a short story and an anthology from Down and Out Books, which Shotgun Honey, which publishes this, is an imprint of Down and Out Books. So Down and Out Books is kind of the parent publisher. And there's an anthology, kind of a clown noir anthology that I did a short story for.
Clown noir anthology. I must.
Yeah, it's called
look at this.
called Grease Paint and 45s. It comes out sometime this year. I haven't heard yet. I think they're waiting for a cover design and stuff. So that's going to come out later. And then there's one more. There's 3, I think. Oh, I guess it's the novella is the 3rd. I think there might be another short story. I'm not thinking yet. But no, it's exciting. I think it's each year you just get a bit more. It's nice to see some progression. And it makes me nervous when I have nothing out, when I have no submissions out, because then you're like, well, it's not possible that I'll get an email today, even if it's a rejection. I just like having stuff out there and having irons in the fire, even if they go cold. But I just like having irons in the fire. So I want to get I have a few magazines in mind that have some submission windows that I want to try to make some short stories for. The big thing is 40 Nickels for sure. I'm excited about that. I want to hit the ground running with this one a bit more. Dead Clown Blues came out September 2017, and we had just moved to Toronto. So the entire 3 or 4 months prior felt entirely involved with the move.
Sure.
It's a big thing to move. You know, it was a big deal to move across country. We spent some time in Germany prior because my spouse is German. So we were there while our stuff came across country. And then I'm like, oh, this book is coming out. Oh my God. And I just didn't do a lot of as much promotion as I should have. And I didn't get out there. But in the last year, I have a lot more contacts now. I have more, with the Arthur Ellis Awards and getting some other crime stories published. I've got a bit more of I don't want to say a name in the industry because I don't know if that's really really true, but a little bit more.
You're starting to get established, perhaps.
Yeah. So I've got a little more, I can put a little more behind promoting. And I'm going to have some lead time because I'm hopefully going to have 4 or 5 months. I'm going to get some advanced review copies out there, try and get some blurbs, try and hit the ground running a bit more rather than this last one. It came out and I had the book and then it was like, okay, now go. And I was new to the city and the thing we talked about not knowing a lot of writers here and stuff. So,
right.
Excited about that. And really excited to see this one. Especially that there's going to be a hardcover.
Yes, there is going to be a hardcover. Yes, I'm very excited about the hardcover.
What's the rules on being your own, funding your own Kickstarter?
Actually, it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
you want to fund
not like a hardcover. I may never get another hardcover. Yeah, this is a great chance to have a hardcover. So I think I might, I'm going to invest as well.
Excellent. Yeah, absolutely. You're allowed to do that. It's
okay.
I'm not, I think, because I'm the one who's officially running it. But Zach Chapman already contributed to
great
Kickstarter. So hopefully I'll be able to get him on too, because he's got a cool story as well, and I'd like to talk with him. Well, Mr. Bernie says you do get stopped in the streets, right?
Oh, yeah. If I get stopped,
wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, I get stopped in the streets around here. It's because of Tilda, because she's like infamous around here. All the shop owners know her and talk to her, and yeah.
Hardcover, keep books real. Forget these ebooks, he says. You know what? I prefer paper books myself, and I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But the fact is, we live in the internet age. A lot of people prefer ebooks. I'm finding that the people who would have bought, the dime store paperbacks, you can't do that anymore, right? Because dime store paperbacks are $10 a piece now, right?
Yeah.
So, that market is going to ebooks instead, because you can download it and read it on your phone, and everybody's got a phone, right? So you kind of do have to approach both markets, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I get it, and I prefer paper books too whenever possible. Absolutely.
Yeah.
He says, looking around his library.
Looking at some of my, just this, a paperback version of Last Exit to Brooklyn, just to hold that book, and it's been around since the 60s or whatever, and it's not valuable in that sense, but yeah, you just don't really see.
Reader in the bathtub. That's one thing that is, I think, a disadvantage.
Yeah.
You take your paperback in there, though. Yeah. I don't know about taking your hardcover. I've dropped so many books in the tub that I probably wouldn't do that. But yeah.
But I really still appreciate the print publications I've had, even though it's much harder to get readers. I think if I have a story in a print publication, it's harder to get read because that means your friends have to go and buy it, and that's asking them to go and buy it. Whereas if I can send them a link, it's on this website, I probably get way more views.
Yeah,
if it's online, but I still really like the print ones, just because I can then order some copies and hand them out and give them out, and I can hold it. So I'm really excited that Gunsmoke and Dragonfire is going to be not only paperback, but a chance to get a hardcover. Hey, why not?
Exactly. I agree with you completely. I think it's.
And I love the cover. I think it turned out really well.
Cover artist is Aaron Siddall. Mm-hmm. He is a professional illustrator who does a lot of work with role-playing games primarily, but he's also done some children's book illustration and stuff.
That influence, yeah. Nice.
Yeah, and our cover designer was Claire Ryan, who is also one of our authors. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think the cover is absolutely kick-ass. I was just so excited when I saw it. I'm like, this is
And she's the one.
Says, oh, no, sorry. Go ahead.
So is it Claire that's able to do the hardcovers, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, she's going to be doing the typesetting for the hardcovers as well, and the design. So it probably won't look that different from the paperback, but yeah, it's going to be cool, I think.
Oh, that's exciting.
Mr. Bernie says you can kill an annoying fly with a real book. With an ebook, you will smash your ebook reader when trying to kill the fly. He is absolutely
there you go.
Or your phone. Do not try to kill the fly with a phone.
If anyone's
get a bug of salt, they're better.
If anyone's into snooker, I'll mention that my friend David Burney is a commentator. He does a lot of the commentating for Canadian snooker events. Maybe he wants to put up a link if that's cool. But yeah, just
sure, he's welcome to. Absolutely.
I know there was just a tournament, but there's always stuff starting, and he's the voice of a lot of the Canadian snooker tournaments that you might be watching online. So yeah, shout out.
That's great. Okay, well, we went way over the time that I thought we were going to because we had to do it twice.
Time to pick up my daughter from daycare.
Right. So thank you so much
for
joining me today and for being so patient with all the technical difficulties.
Absolutely. And there's a chance to do another one closer to publication or a group one where
that'd be cool. Yeah. Okay. I will keep that in mind because I would like to try to have as many of us all at once, all as possible, right? As close to the date as we can. And if we can't do it on the Kickstarter live, then we will do it on my YouTube channel instead. And I thanks, because that would be, I was going to talk to you about that. So that's
great.
That's great. That's perfect. Again, check out our Kickstarter. If we are going to be premiering this video probably tomorrow morning on my YouTube channel. Of course, that's tomorrow morning Pacific time. So that might be early afternoon Eastern. I'm thinking noonish, right? So, cool. But I'll post a link in the updates. And so if you're watching this there and some of the references are a little obscure, just scroll down the video description. You will find all of the links that we have mentioned. And, hopefully that will be helpful. And I
don't think I'll be able to watch that.
No.
No, I'm still getting used to that whole, watching yourself.
I know it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
I find it very weird too. And you're looking at it and going, why did I say that stupid?
Yeah. And right. Oh. And that's the second chance. That's your second opportunity. You had a dry run and you still said that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? But that's the thing with live, right? And everybody understands, I think, that, being live, it's off the cuff, right?
Yeah.
So
a lot of ums and ahs
and hums. And I say right a lot. Apparently, I've learned.
Well, thanks, Dan. I really appreciate that. That was fun.
Thank you. And check out his story, The Sound of One Shoe Tapping in Gunsmoke Dragonfire, and check out his novella, Dead Clown Blues, and his sequel, 40 Nickels, in
August.
In August.
Yeah.
All right.
Great. Nice to meet you finally.
Hi, everybody. Yes, nice to meet you in person finally, too.
Yeah.
All right. Take care and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye.